This is In the Middle with Josh and Sarah Siders. We get it. You're probably going through something that's asking you to dig deep, think differently, and hold on against the odds.
So these are our thoughts about starting new things, shutting some things down, and being with you, right there in the middle.
Welcome back to the In the Middle podcast, the podcast for those of us who haven't arrived yet. I'm Sarah.
I'm Josh. It's really good to have you here
Yes.
for part 2.
Yes. Of how we met.
Yes, it's a love story.
Can you handle that?
Maybe just say yes, part 2. Yeah, so I had fun last time. That was really...
It was fun.
That was good. Stroll down memory lane.
Yeah. 18 plus years. It's just basically like 2 decades.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, once you're that far in, you just kind of round up.
You do.
So yeah.
You do round up.
So if you
Yeah.
didn't get a chance to listen to that, I would encourage you to go back and do it. It was really lighthearted and fun and meaningful.
Yep. Did we get into the lessons learned? No, we sure didn't.
I think we're still unpacking that.
We still are. We still are. Ask us in 2 decades what we've learned about marriage.
Right. The wiser versions of ourselves.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
It's so true. So yes, we got into our origin story.
Yeah.
How did we become the Siders?
That's right.
The dynamic duo power couple that we are.
Yeah. So before we get into part 2, we do have a sponsor today.
Oh, good.
So let me give you
let's
a sponsor.
let's hear who's behind the madness today.
All of our sponsors,
Yes.
but especially Screen Time Negotiators LLC.
Oh, yeah.
Because Just 30 Minutes has been successfully rebranded as Literally All Day.
Oh my gosh. Is this, yes, there's a bunch of moms.
Is this our life?
the moms on the team. We've been doing pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Thank you to Screen Time Negotiators.
That's right. Yeah, we
RS.
could personally vouch for them
Yeah.
and all of their help.
And all the moms out there, the parents out there that are negotiating over the summer in between camps and activities. Yeah. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Lots of late nights.
Yeah.
Which means sleeping in for the
Yeah,
kids.
it does. Which means
And-
quiet mornings for us.
Yay. Get stuff done or get out of the house and get to work. But
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, it's been good, and we've been having a lot of fun.
Lots of late night hangs,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Yeah.
The 4 of us
4 of us doing
just
that.
doing,
And then the
together.
kids are, running around
yeah.
doing their summer. So in case you listened a few episodes ago, we talked about bringing back the carefree, free range, feral 80s, 90s summers of the Gen X and millennial origins.
Yeah.
And we are doing that. We're
Yeah,
doing
it's
that
really good.
for sure. One, important note was that this week we said goodbye
Yeah.
to somebody really special.
We did.
Our pet dog, our chocolate lab bear. Oh my gosh.
Sadly passed away.
He passed away on Saturday.
Yeah.
And, he came with the house, basically.
Yeah.
Like, we bought
Yeah.
the house. We were pregnant with John. Our whole life of, starting out with the job in ministry. And I was, in the first year with my work at the hospital.
It's like boom, boom, boom.
Everything was
Yeah.
new. And he was there with us in the middle of all of it. Everyone loved him. He was we called him our practice kid, but he was really our first kid and was everywhere with us.
Yeah, in a way, it's like we got married,
Mm-hmm.
but it was Bear that made us a family.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's
he's
so
been
true.
there since the
Oh,
beginning.
jeez.
And it's been a rough week for us. And we're getting through it.
The
But
saddest.
we were doing, collecting pictures and videos and finding new ones. I'm
Yeah.
finding videos that I haven't seen since I took them
I know.
in 2010. And so it's been healing and cathartic, but sad. And
Yeah, so much reflection on maybe other people have these existential crises around their pets. I didn't grow up with a dog, so for me this was my first dog.
Yeah.
And I was, as annoyed with his little noises and things that he would do as I was charmed by his general existence. And
Yeah.
I was grateful for his like velvety ears and his just like, constant presence. But he was also like, he would be naughty, he would just be so naughty. And we didn't get, had the roommates and we were having the baby and we were starting the church.
Yeah.
And so he missed like a layer of training, right?
Yeah.
There was some basic stuff, but then, he was just naughty. And so he was just like part of all of the like growing up and the chaos of the early days. And it was just like, it's wild. But seeing him in the pool, the baby pool, when he was, really young, and then in there with John, in there with the kids, and then, running around in the snow.
Yeah.
Bear's first snow, you guys.
Yeah. So funny.
Gold.
Yeah.
The happiest.
I need to figure out how to make like a really great compilation of photos and videos and put it together. And
it was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good. Just so much fun to see that. And like, I'm there holding John, and he's like 1 month old and Bear's in the yard and he's like, what is this? Like and then Mary Oliver wrote a poem about the dog in the snow. And, and so reading Mary Oliver's poems about dogs, I'm like, you guys. So it's just been really interesting to think about this set of years, 15 years with this special dog and in our family and how he's been part of that. It's like, it's like you feel like you can't go on. You're like freeze for a while. So anyways, if you've ever lost a pet that you loved, we feel you. And we're going through that at the moment. So it's interesting that we're in like reminiscing mode.
Isn't
right?
that so interesting? That I mean, it just is a curious coincidence.
The coincidence, well,
right in the middle
of this two-part
story,
and we're clearing out, like doing a deep dive on a lot of spaces in our house that have just more stuff in storage, going through and moving things on that were from the kids' childhood.
That's right.
And doing that, like, in the middle of this, it's just been like, what is happening?
Yeah. It's
An
a lot to process and emotionally like detach from, send onward, and
yeah. So lots of mixed emotions, but anyway, you all know that if you've ever had a beloved pet. So this was my really first time, and anyway, so that's a part of this. And we just, in order to tell the story of Bear, we have to skip ahead in our own story, and now we're gonna have to go back. So you're gonna have to follow us along this wacky chronology. But last episode we ended with we had started dating
early months of dating. Every couple weeks you're like, I think I'm gonna break up with you, and I would say, okay, we'll see, kind of laugh it off.
So I would just get so anxious. And I think that that was a part of my life that I didn't really understand. The anxiety I felt about all my relationships, and how I felt it was like that I was doing something wrong, that maybe like it wasn't the right thing for me to be. I was like, how do I be in a relationship and have a good connection to God? That was really important to me. And so I always felt like I was choosing between my faith and my relationship to God and these guys, because guys, in a relationship, it takes a lot of your time and energy. It does.
There's a lot of like infatuation at the beginning, a lot of like rearranging schedules to hang out and so as a good post campus ministry girl, right, like a lot of people, it wasn't purity culture per se. I wasn't really super steeped in that. But I had internalized a ton of rigidity around relationships. And I didn't really know that. And so you were at the brunt of that. And honestly, I don't know who could have handled that kind of flip-flopping and, the anxiety that I had. You were, when I look back now, I'm like, it makes me sad a little bit. Like, I loved being with you, but I'm sad that we had to endure my anxiety around that, because there was so much fun. And we're going to talk about that. Yeah, a lot of fun.
But it's like, sometimes, that's the interesting thing about like beginning to weave your lives together is you're not just spending time or maybe sharing space or going to events together. You're also like sharing emotional space, and you affect each other so much so early. So anyways,
well, what's one or two of your favorite memories from the early months of dating?
Oh, just like when I think back, I'm like, how did we have so much time? Like, I know we both had jobs, like full-time jobs, and I'm like, we had so much time because we would just go out for drives. And I loved that. Go out and look at the stars. We did like a tour of some, little regional small towns. And it was just really fun. We just loved being together. It was like,
it's true.
And it kind of feels like that when we go on trips now, when it's just us two.
Just exploring and we're like hanging out.
Wow, this is fun. Like just this kind of like free space. It comes back when we're together. But those road trips and the exploration of like new places, but being together. And that was one. I think another one that I remember that was so significant and to me was like, I always reference back to it because within the first week of dating I was like, I had this experience. I've told you about it, but I don't say it a ton. We were at an event for my work and I was working as a foster home social worker. And so the nonprofit I worked for was hosting like, foster families got to come for free to this baseball game at K-State.
Right.
And you were there with me and you were being like that quiet, more like, reserved self, and you weren't super engaging. You like with everybody, you were just kind of standing there. But how I experienced you was like so grounding. Like having you there, it felt like an anchor for me emotionally and relationally that like I hadn't felt before. It was like, I felt more calm. I felt more peaceful. I'm talking to all these people and you're not even necessarily participating in it, but it was like,
sounds about right.
You've gotten so much more like involved socially over the years, but at the time you just kind of were quiet in the background. And I just remember feeling like so grateful for that. And it was so poignant, that feeling of being anchored, that even when I would get so anxious and be like, is this the right thing? I don't know. I would be able to refer back to that moment and be like, I've never felt like that with anyone. Like, it was so different. No guy, no person in my whole life had I ever felt that grounded. And it's like, wow. So anyway, very, very special. So cool. I remember that, and I just remember all of our exploring. What about you?
Yeah, I remember getting in trouble.
No. No.
I remember because I
have this effect on people.
When we started dating, I was managing the video department in Dillon's, right? So I had a lot of it, like I was writing the schedule and a lot of oversight and autonomy. And I remember as we continued dating, you had a lot of flexibility in your job too, because it required travel and just, meeting with different people. So there would be chunks during the day where you were available. So we'd like have lunch back at my house or something like that. I remember sometimes my lunches would turn from 1 hour into 2 hours because we're just like hanging out. We're just like, and I would call, whoever's working. I was like, hey, I'm going to take a little bit longer. And I did that, I think, one too many times.
Oh, no.
And the store manager gave me a talking to. Like, what's up? Why are you taking so long of lunches? And I would make up the hours. Like, it wasn't, and the work would get done, but it was like, he was right to call me on that. But it was super, I mean, it was just kind of funny looking back at it now about like, we just wanted to hang out.
Yeah, we did.
And so much I got in trouble. So. No regrets, though. No regrets.
I remember like one time I was like, I ended up, we had stayed up late talking one night or something. And it was like very early on. And so I was like so tired. I like slept in my car and ended up missing a meeting. And I was like so shocked. Like, I was like, how in the world, because I was driving around like all over these parts of Kansas. And so I was like, oh, I probably need to not be driving right now because I was tired. And then I just like slept through my, notification. And really, really funny. It didn't happen a lot, but it was just enough like it's like, oh my gosh,
yeah.
You know, we're just spending so much time
That's
together. Right. And
I remember one more funny story.
Oh yeah.
Little bit at your expense, but I think we can laugh about it. I was just telling
hope so.
I was telling John this yesterday, actually. So we've been dating for several months, and I remember you came by the counter at the store.
Yeah.
And you held up the bottom half of a flip phone, and you're like, I just broke my phone.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, how does that happen? Yeah. She was like, well, I was like busy and I had a bunch of stuff and I was getting in my car and I put it on the roof.
Yeah.
And I just drove off.
Yeah.
And I realized you like heard it or something.
Mm-hmm.
So you circled back.
Mm-hmm.
You said, I circled back and I picked up the pieces. Mm-hmm. It was like 3 pieces or something. You brought it in the 2 pieces because one of them was the battery that you attached.
Oh yeah.
But you're like, I can still text on this. Mm-hmm. Like I can still text people I'm running late. Mm-hmm. Of course, that's the
I would be
because you could. It was the T9 pad,
yeah.
And you could use it as a speakerphone for people whose numbers you either had saved or in the top 9 or that you knew
because it was back
and
then.
I was like, that is the funniest thing I've ever heard. Like. You're like I got this.
Like to date someone
and
I
was like, I was totally not scared off.
Yeah,
I was totally just. I thought it was so funny that you're like, yeah, I can make this work until I get a new phone. And how little did we know that that's a pretty good summary, like of our marriage, like what you just shared about me kind of being like, stand back and watch.
Yep.
And then you being like, I don't know how I did this, but I can make this work.
So many things. So many things. Like, adaptable, flexible, creative. It's like, as long as I have an adventurous approach to it, whereas sometimes if my anxiety gets in there, then I'm like really mad at myself.
But I remember, and I should say this, I remember I told the story last episode about how you popped into the door frame, and I'm like, dang. It's like, that was the energy. You like popped over to the counter, like boop, all of a sudden you're there.
Yep.
And you're like explaining this and you're like kind of like at a loss for words. You're kind of like looking off into the distance, like shocked that this is happening. Anyway, but I can still make calls on it.
Yep.
And I'm like, what is going on? This is so funny.
This is chaos in human form.
Yeah.
I mean, but like think about the time when Rachel and Ika stole my car. In downtown. You weren't, we didn't know you, but you know this.
I remember the story.
My friends, shout out to my lovely friend Ika, who may listen to this podcast. She's been a dedicated listener.
Yeah.
And our dear friend Rachel, who passed away last year.
Yeah.
We were at a concert in downtown Kansas City, and I was expected that my car would get stolen. I don't know why I thought this, but I just like, my car's going to get stolen. So they like had just met that night. And we were like an L19 or something. And they like conspired to move the car, make it act like it, came in. Oh my gosh, where's your car? And I was like, oh, I just walked out there and I was like, oh, my car has finally been stolen. And so meanwhile, like a couple years later, it actually was stolen. And it was involved in a hit and run. And that's a whole nother, like, I have so many things like this. But it was like that kind of energy of like, expecting things to be wild, expecting to have to adapt. Like, and I have so many crazy stories, and that was how I lived, and it's how I wanted to live for a long time. And then when you have children,
a little bit different. Then they have the crazy stories.
they're like, oh my gosh, my mom. But I haven't been as much like that. But what's interesting is my fun side was connected with that.
Oh yeah.
And so the more I like try to be orderly, the more I'm like, I don't know how to be fun now, help. So the ADD forces were strong with this one. This was not an adult onset, which is not a thing.
Yeah. So we should probably get to a little bit of like, then we're dating for several months. Like we've said, we got married a year and a day.
Yes.
After we started dating. Yes. So we're getting into maybe later in the year.
Yep.
We navigated some issues. If you remember this, like, I think there was a family, like I went to your family for Thanksgiving, met all of your extended family, like the 100+ Newman side, whatever.
Yeah.
And then there was a little like I thought you were going to come back to meet my family for Christmas.
Yep.
And you're like, nope.
Yep.
So that was really interesting. I don't know how much we want to get into that.
Do
but
we want to call it interesting? I mean, I was trying to.
It was shocking, and I was a little upset. Yep. And you were like, yeah, I think we had some disagreements over, family priority and stuff like that. And it was interesting. But what I will say is this. My family was so excited to meet you. Like a couple months into it, you came at my parents and, my brother and sister-in-law and what did my mom say? Shout out to Mom.
It was,
I know she's a listener.
It was early. It was like June. We started in May.
Yeah.
So June we went to your brother and sister-in-law's house, and we were on the driveway, and we drove up, and your mom gives me a hug, and she goes, "We've been praying for you. We are like 1 month into dating." And I was like, you did not pray for Josh's next girlfriend. Like, you're praying for his wife, which means that you think that this is what. And it was so funny. Really, your mom, it didn't.
Like,
I didn't even take it the
wrong
way. I didn't take it the wrong way.
Yeah,
but they were like, oh, because you had given them the monk story, right?
Yeah, and they were in denial. They probably were like, rightfully so.
They were like, what?
This too shall pass. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of the backstory. My family's super excited.
Yep.
I'm dating a hot chick, so it's like, let's lock that down, son. Let's go. They didn't ever say that to me, but that's the vibe. And so, you get to Christmas, and it's kind of like, okay, she doesn't want to come back. Like,
what's going on?
I'm not coming to her family. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm upset. So anyway, we'll work through that. We worked through that.
It was a challenge. It was really weird.
We quickly moved from that to the next thing.
Which was
in January.
The next thing.
Yep. I think you were over at my apartment. You came over to my apartment, right? We were hanging out, and you're like,
so my brother was getting
deployed. He's like, oh, he got his orders.
Yeah.
He's getting called up from the reserves.
He was getting deployed, and he was at K-State with us, so we saw him sometimes. He was very busy. He
was a blur.
He was a blur, but I mean, I think that it's a family trait anyway.
Yeah.
So he was a blur, and we found out he was getting deployed, and it was really weird because when we made it through that, holiday period where we're on different pages about things, different expectations, and I was trying to be like, I don't know, just exert my influence. Be like, well, I'm not pretending like things are normal if things aren't. And so we worked through that, and here we are. And we get this notification that he's deploying in May. And I remember it was so weird because I don't think I knew how I felt. Like, I don't know if I was like, I'm going to marry this guy.
Yeah.
But as soon as we find out that John is leaving, I was like,
for probably like a year plus.
Year to 15 months for the deployments at the time. So I was like, oh, if we are going to, like, it was just like this question came to my mind. If we're going to get married, we have to get married before he leaves, or we wait until a year and a half. And it was like clear that I wanted to marry you, even before you hadn't asked.
Yeah.
So it was so weird.
Yeah.
I don't even remember all the conversations.
It was a blur, and it was sort of like, is this happening?
We were being really pragmatic.
We were. It was, and you laid it out. It's like, hey, listen, I don't know for sure what's happening.
It's so crazy.
But if we're thinking about getting married, and I don't think we talked about it at all. Had we talked about it?
But marriage?
Yeah.
Like,
maybe like
the idea
ideas.
Of it.
Yeah. What would you like? Yeah.
We might get married. Like, it was kind of like, is that what's going on
here?
You know what I mean?
Yeah. What kind of wedding would you want? Yeah. That sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like what, big, small, whatever.
Okay.
And you're like, well, it's big. All my family's coming, so it's automatic.
Right.
But that night it was like, I remember being in the apartment, but I don't remember much of the conversation. I just remember the pragmatic, like, well, we either do it before he gets deployed in May, or we wait.
Yep.
And I'm like, they get leave, don't they? And you're like, we can't plan a wedding aiming for Army leave.
Oh,
right?
No.
Yeah, because I'm just oblivious. I'm like, oh,
like if
okay.
He's not.
I'm not necessarily looking for a way out, but I'm like, what are the options?
Yep.
Okay, it's either May or sometime next year, you know?
Yeah. And I think it was also becoming clear that like it was financially bad. Like, it's like, oh, we have one phone account.
Yeah.
We have one, like, you know, and we were traditional, like old school. We were like, we're not going to move in together until we are married. Yeah. So we weren't going to have those financial benefits.
Right.
And so it was like, oh, it's actually so much cheaper to do these things. Like for where we were both at, like so early in our careers. Right. And so it was like the pragmatism of it.
It was. And so I think we just...
Wow. Not romantic, really.
Not really, but I think that's okay. I think a lot of people need like some of that expectation popped.
Well, it's like we loved each other. It wasn't like there was no romance and we were just making some kind of arrangement.
Totally.
But it was like, how and when you decide to get married, if you already love each other, might be very pragmatic.
Right.
And that does need to be.
So remind me though, because I sort of remember we decided and then we almost immediately, I think that night, called our families.
Did we?
Was it that quick? I mean, it was quick. It was like, yeah, okay. And then, if not, it was within a couple of days. And I remember calling my family with you there. Yeah. And saying, hey, are you guys busy in May?
Oh, my God.
Something like
have
that.
Not asked me to marry.
So, and that's
right.
So that's the next phase of the story is that we decided together. Yeah. And then we go into planning mode. Right. Because we're getting married in Kansas City in 3.5 months. Yep. Yeah. So dated 8.5, engaged 3.5. Yeah. Married year and a day.
So crazy.
So we start planning. Yeah. And we haven't even looked at rings. No. I mean, we haven't done any of that stuff. We didn't have time.
We did it all backwards.
But and so the agreement was, because you knew Kansas City, I didn't. Yeah. I'm like,
and we were going to get married there because
you do I don't know. Top 3, okay? Narrow everything down, because I've been in a couple weddings and I heard from a friend about like we spent forever looking at everything, and it's like we just like I think that helped us switch over because we had to be decisive. And so I'm like, hey, if you can whittle it, I want to help you choose. This isn't on you, but give me top 3. Yeah, and then we'll decide. You know, stuff like that was really, I think, helpful.
It was, once again, very pragmatic. When you have no time to make decisions, then it actually helps. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like, you end up just... I got everything that I wanted. Yeah. Which, when I was in high school, the 2 things I knew was that I wanted to get married to this place called the Loretto. Yeah. Because it was this beautiful old like Catholic girls' school in Westport, and I wanted a pearl because it had this like whole meaning and story for me. Yeah. And then I didn't think about my wedding at all. Yeah. Like, I was not a girl who planned her wedding, but I just bookmarked those 2 things in my brain and then I moved on. Yeah. And so it was just really funny because the Loretto was available, and we needed to do a Sunday. Yeah. It turned out it was Mother's Day. Right. And we had to do Sunday because of family that wasn't available. So it was like this one day. Right. Right before, a week before John deployed.
Well, because it was right before his graduation.
Yes, right before his graduation, week before his deployment. This one day when a ton of my family would be in, it was Mother's Day. We were doing everything. Yeah. It was so crazy. So
before that, I think the next part of it is like we're in full planning mode. Yep. I come into Kansas City with you. Yeah. We go out with your parents to look at churches. Still haven't proposed. No. Because I don't have any rings yet. No. And
we were looking.
I think we had ordered it. It's on the way or nearly ordered, something like that. We're out with your parents looking at. We're not engaged, technically. Nope. You know, and so
we put it's complicated on Facebook.
We put it's complicated.
Remember when people would put like status updates and be like, it's complicated.
Totally remember that.
It was so funny.
It was funny for a minute. Yeah. Funny for a minute, because then the longer we did it.
My family was stressed out about it. Yeah. They were like, what's going on?
Yeah. And so I remember I went in town and I asked your parents. Yes. If I could marry you. And they said yes. Yes. Still didn't have any rings though. Right. And so we're still not engaged. No. Looking at stuff. And then it got a little like heated and awkward. And I fumbled the ball on the engagement, the proposal. Oh. You know, fully admit that, because I felt all the pressure of like, okay, so I didn't have the engagement ring yet because it was a pearl.
Yeah.
It took longer for them to decide that. So I had the wedding band, and I'm like,
I guess we'll do this.
Yeah. And
it was like at my apartment, you know, like just.
You didn't feel good. I think you had a migraine or something.
Oh, no.
It was terrible. It was terrible. Our friend who married us, our pastor friend who married us, called me a little while later and was like, do you want a do-over? Because like she's going to remember that forever. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't even have the real ring yet. Like, I don't know how I would do this better.
We ended up getting it like 6 weeks before the wedding. Like, it was because the time crunch was so short. I know, it was really weird.
So it's funny to look back now and there was this mix of pragmatism up front that morphed into this confusion, gray area of like, I've never done this before, so I'm never going to do this again too. But ideally, I don't know how to make this work the right way.
No, it was so hard.
It was messy, but it was us.
I don't feel like I look back and I see. I mean, my parents had like 4 conversations about getting married, in which my mom turned my dad down 3 times because she was going to go overseas and do missions work, and then finally she ended up saying yes. It took 4 years. And it was a lot of conversations in the car, like, you know, will you marry me or whatever. And like, proposals have only just begun to be like something obnoxious, like horseback riding on the beach or a balloon, you know, hot air balloon. Yeah. It's like millennials invented that, just complete over the top. But that was so new. People weren't necessarily doing that.
Well, and people ask about, how did he propose? I mean, we have a funny story. We don't have a sweet romantic story.
It's not romantic because there wasn't time for that. Yeah. It was like we had to do everything really quickly. And to be honest, like all of those things, like the opportunities that have come to us many times have been like, do you want to do this? Yes or no? And we're like, do you want to run for city commission? Do you want to buy this house?
Yeah.
You have 6 weeks. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Here, you have this. Here's this baby. Like, you know, I mean, obviously we had 9 months to prepare for our babies, but just like so many things have happened like that. And we've tried to be like ready to say yes. And I think that was like, in some ways, the training ground for us, to just be like, okay, we need to say yes. Like saying yes to each other necessarily wasn't me saying yes to you. It was like we said yes to each other before. We, you know, I said yes to you. And like, I understand that. And so at the time, initially I was like, what is this proposal? Like, you know, it's very like informal, but then at the same time, it was necessary and you needed to like clinch the deal so we could have. It was so funny, you guys. Oh my gosh. It was so crazy. Yeah. So I'm sure that Josh felt bad for too long about it. But, you know, you can do something for me for the 25th anniversary or something. I don't know.
Okay. Remind me. Okay?
I'm just like, I am a little bit, that's the thing. I was having fun when we were dating. Like, I felt very girly and like, you know, had like a romantic vibe, which I don't normally. Like, I'm kind of one of the dudes a lot of the time. I have a lot of that energy. And so it was really fun to feel like that in our relationship. But I am very pragmatic. Yeah. I am. That's my vibe.
And I don't really do the mind reading thing. And you have promised to spare me from that.
I mostly have.
So I don't, I'm
always.
like, you tell me this, that's what's going to happen. Yeah. And I think I've got a little bit more attuned to some...
You have.
You know,
major.
Yeah, if I can go, she's telling me this, she's trying to be really helpful and pragmatic, maybe I'll do a little bit more than that. Yep. You know, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, you know. So but it's that's our story. So we you got your dress.
Oh. Yeah.
Gotta
I mean, we bought so many things online that year because I bought my car on eBay. Yeah. And then I ended up being able to see it before we bought it. My dad actually ended up getting to randomly test drive it in a different city. You guys, the stories, I'm telling you. Yeah. My car was bought on eBay. Okay. This was 2007.
You can't really go.
I'm not going
We've got to kind of, okay.
And then a couple months later when the next year, 2008, we don't have time to do all the things. So I find a dress online. It's pink. I wanted a pink dress. It was kind of champagne, dusty pink. Yeah. And beautiful.
It's beautiful.
So I just bought it online. And then it came And it was like 3 sizes too big and it was really pink. I was like, wow, this is so pink. I'm committing. And so I loved it. I did it. I tried on 0 dresses. I did not do that. I just ordered it and we had it tailored. So there was just so much of that, so much of this. But my girlfriends were all there. Yeah. They were all there in the wedding. They flew in.
And then a lot of people, for their wedding gifts, they contributed to the wedding. We had people, Jazzy painted the beautiful picture.
Oh my gosh. So we had our friends are so creative.
Yeah. So we commissioned people as gifts to like be a part. It was just really, really great.
Yeah. Steve wrote us an original song and brought in a saxophone player to play it. We had a 5-piece band with our friends. Yeah. And then
with like Danielle did operatic like Ave Maria.
Yeah, Danielle classically trained. She sang Ave Maria for the moms for Mother's Day.
Danced.
And Ika choreographed a dance while she was in Madrid.
Yeah.
We sent her the song, you guys. This was way before it was not good.
Pre-Skype, I think.
Yeah.
Or like it was.
It was an MP3, very crappy quality. Sent it, Steve's song to her. She choreographed a dance to it. And Jazzy had the painting at the rehearsal dinner that she showed everybody. And then the dance and the song were at the ceremony bay. Yeah. It was gorgeous.
It was great. It was awesome.
I still think that that for me, other than getting married to you, was the highlight. Just having our friends be on display and their gifts. And it was such a gift to have them do that. I love that so much. So I'll never forget.
So we went
so grateful to all our friends.
We went to Cozumel. I'm going to give kind of a summary of that.
Cozumel. And do you remember how it was the island of fertility?
We were getting onto the plane to fly onto the island, and it's the island of fertility. And you were going to grad school.
Yeah.
We're we're not ready for that.
No. We did not have to worry about that, though. We found out.
But the resort, that was... we got to go back sometime because that was phenomenal.
Highly recommend all-inclusive resort, but we would never. We wouldn't do a cruise. We're not cruise people, but an all-inclusive resort is really nice.
Yeah,
because you
really nice.
You can have all the watered-down pina coladas you want.
Yeah, it's true.
We drank 10 of those, and I'm like,
the beach cabana things, and it was really, really great.
Oh, so
we
fun.
came back to Manhattan and moved into my 1-bedroom apartment for a little bit.
Yep.
The 2-bedroom was getting painted. Yes. I think.
Downstairs apartment.
And
he let us pick out the colors, and we picked out Caribbean colors because we wanted colors from Cozumel. And
it wouldn't have been my first choice, but it was totally
every room was a different color, you guys. It was
incredible.
Chaos. Papaya in our bedroom.
Yeah.
Tangerine in the guest room.
Yeah.
Fuchsia in the kitchen, and daffodil in the living room.
Yeah, and some sort of yellow too. Marigold
or. So you guys,
it was. So
that was how we lived, and Bear was brought into all of that.
So we were almost 2 years in that apartment.
Yep.
And then I landed the church job. Mm-hmm. You were starting at Fort Riley, and we thought, oh my gosh, I think we can buy a house.
Yep.
Or the Obama tax credit for first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
And we were putting all this together, and we're I think we can buy a house.
This was it, right? It was that moment where all of a sudden we had an opportunity and we had to say yes.
This seems a little crazy, but we don't have a down payment. But
we didn't even have it saved up.
I think we can do this still. And so
we found out we were pregnant in the middle of all that.
Yeah. Started looking for houses. We're pregnant.
Yes.
And then I think the Monday or a couple days after Easter, early April, we moved in here. And then within 2 weeks, we had Bear. Yeah, and roommates.
And we had roommates move in.
Some college dudes in the basement. It was...
One had a snake.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
So it was...
Big snake.
It was quite a deal.
She had her own Facebook page.
Yeah, that's right.
You guys...
And... yeah, that was
we were so young.
That was
so
the start
young
of it.
And crazy. Oh man, I can't even believe it.
Let's see. So that was 2010.
Yeah, 2010.
So 15 years later.
15 years.
Here we are.
Yeah, guys. Oh, all the foolishness and adventure and all the things have grown us up a lot.
Can we come full circle? I think we have a minute where I could tell the story about Bear.
Oh you have a story about Bear?
Well, how I brought him home. So,
yes.
So I just, we got the jobs, got the house, baby's on the way.
Yeah. Full domestic mode.
I have a backyard now, and I'm like, I want a dog. I want a dog. And so I was looking at dogs that were great with kids. Yeah. Labs are phenomenal. So I actually wanted a black lab. And so I went out somewhere in the country. Someone was selling labs for like purebred labs, no papers, but it was purebred. And so I was like, okay. And they said they had black labs. I went out, and someone had just taken the last one. I was like, okay, well, I'm here. Let's see what we got. And so there's this cage, this kennel outside. And I know for dogs, you're supposed to look at the spirited ones, the ones that are curious, not scared. And so they open the door up, and he is the first one that sprints out. This little roly-poly chocolate lab, 12 weeks old, sprints out and starts chasing the chickens all the way. Doesn't even really pay attention to me. Just wants the chickens. And I'm like, I think that's the one. And they had some very cute puppies. And so I brought him home and stopped at the pet shop on the way. He got collar and food and stuff like that. And I brought him home. We had moving boxes all over the place. So I kept checking on Sarah. This was before Find My, I didn't know where you're at.
No, you didn't.
But you're on Fort Riley, driving home. I'm like checking in. Are you home yet? Or are you on your way? When are you going to be home? And so right as I think I saw you turn on the block, I put him in a box. Right here in the living room, and welcomed you home. And
and I was like, you were like, look in the box, and I was like, what? Because I didn't know you were like actively looking for the dog, like actually going to.
No, I did. It was a surprise.
You told me that you were thinking.
I got permission.
Yeah,
and then that was it.
Yeah,
that was it.
So I come in the door and have to open up the box a little bit.
Yeah,
and I see this puppy, and I can't even explain because I was so shocked. And I was also 6 weeks pregnant. So I was super emotional, and I just basically squealed for 5 minutes straight.
Yeah.
I just was playing with him. He's rolling around, and I just was stunned. Because he was so cute, and he had that fat little juicy furry underarms, and you just pick him up, and he was just wiggle.
He's just licking and
he was just a
nibbling
guy.
and so roly-poly and
so
fuzzy.
Roly-poly. Oh my gosh, he was so sweet. And over the next few months, we had all these baby equipment. We had the baby seat, we had the swing, in the Johnny jump up. And the crib, the Bumbo, and we had all of that, and we put him in all of it.
Yeah.
Every single time it was here's
dog
the
tested,
swing.
mother approved.
Here's the hammock outside.
Hammock.
We were putting him in all the things, and taking him out, doing dog stuff with him, and then we would always have people at the house.
Yeah.
Always have people.
Yeah.
And so we have all these
everything.
videos of him.
Yeah.
Playing with everybody, and there's so many people in the house you can't even tell who's there because all you see is the feet.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Everybody loved him so much. Lots of sweet photos of people holding him, and he was just our house mascot. The video of him meeting John is another top favorite, where we bring John home in the car seat, and he sniffs him, and you're like, this is your little brother, take good care of him. You guys, such a sweet. He just licks him like he's as big as his whole. John's tiny little face.
So he's so he sniffs him, licks him, and then is good. Not overpowering or anything. So just very gentle.
It was so sweet. Yeah, he always wanted to be up in the business.
Yeah.
You know how he would always push up against
Scooch
you and
over.
roll over on you.
Yeah.
So he was wanting to do that to the baby, and for a long time that wasn't okay.
Yeah.
But he sampled the toys, munched on the binkies.
All the
John would throw the binkies to him.
Yeah.
And he would
lots of late night Walmart trips to get more binkies because the dog.
Oh, he loved them so much. So, he would just destroy them instantly. So yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. It's full circle with Bear.
Yep. Absolutely. So we miss him a lot.
We do.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So what are we reading, watching, listening to?
Yeah. Well,
bear videos.
Concurrent with that, I'm watching lots of bear videos. I read the book Marley and Me.
Oh.
I think at some point when the boys are ready, we'll watch the movie together.
Yeah.
And so that counts as my what's bringing me life is
yes.
looking back at photos and videos, and
Same.
then reading that book and just processing grief and regret and sadness.
Yes.
So it's hard, but it's good.
I think that we've just talked about that, like how existential it's been, like just that this whole era of our lives, our kids leave elementary school and middle school, right? They're going into middle and high school. Yeah. And then 2 weeks later, our dog passes from, and so it's felt like my childhood, the kid's childhood has ended. And it's like, it's just been way more intense than I thought, because it was like all these pictures and this whole era. So anyway, I'm grateful that we had it.
Yes.
But yes. It's bringing me life to feel the gratitude and the grief together.
Yeah.
And to share that with you guys.
Yeah.
That's been really special.
Anything else you want to share about reading, watching, listening to, or is it, Mary Oliver dog poems? Would that
Dog songs is so good from Mary Oliver.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I'll just keep it there. That's the theme.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, thanks for joining us, everyone. Thanks for making the trip down memory lane, and hug your pups for us. All right.
We still hug your pups.
We're fortunate. Blue is still here. He's still holding it down as family
Blue
pet.
the cat.
And so we're not. We're without dog for the first time in 15 years. It's a weird feeling, but we still have someone to squeeze. And so hopefully
he doesn't love
you
it
do as well. No.
It does happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, there's these pets add so much to our life and have. So thanks for joining us as we wrap this up, our origin story, how we met, and we are excited to continue. So more to come on the In the Middle podcast next week. We'll be back with you like usual.
Yeah, see you then.
This is the In the Middle podcast with Josh and Sarah Siders. Visit inthemiddlecoaching.co for other resources, courses, and helpful tools.